Hi, welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home. I'm Jenelle Riley from Variety. The SAG-AFTRA Foundation has a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA artists with basic needs like rent, food, and healthcare costs during this global pandemic and industry shutdown. Donations are 100% tax deductible and directly support performers in dire need. Information on how you can support this effort can be found in the description of this video. And now it is my pleasure to introduce William Jackson Harper. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations, you just received an Emmy nomination for your work on The Good Place. You posted a video of your reaction shortly after it was announced, and frankly, you looked kind of stunned.
Yeah, I was totally stunned. It was early, and we had an appointment with an animal communicator, and I was like trying to get my little half-assed workout out of the way before we sat down and talked with her. And so it was all like, just a bunch of things were happening all at the same time. And I was just like, this is not at all the news I expected today. So.
That's right. Were you talking to an animal psychic? Was that it?
Yeah.
People can laugh all they want, but I have friends who swear by them.
Yo, I mean, she called it. She called everything that we were worried about. She called it in the actual meeting, and so I mean, I was as skeptical can be, and but I have to go ahead and just own it that she was right. She was dead on.
Oh, that's fantastic. I might have to hit you up for that information because I have a crazy pit bull that has some very strange behaviors, but that's a whole other podcast. This is primarily an audience of SAG actors who watch these, so I actually like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG Guard?
I was actually doing a Law and Order in New York. It was one of my first jobs. Yeah, I think it was like Law and Order CI, years and years and years ago. I can't even remember how long, but it was one of my first. Maybe it was like my absolute first on-camera job, professional.
Wow. It's funny when you see plays in New York and you go through the bios, you look to see like how many people have a Law and Order credit. I think they're responsible for so many people getting their SAG cards. Were you a good guy or a bad guy?
I was the victim's brother.
Oh.
Yeah. So it was like just a couple of real quick scenes, like a couple of days. Yeah, just a guy, just a real normal, sweet guy. Well, had my hairline was like a little bit further down at the time, it was a long time ago. So
that show airs somewhere at every time of the day somewhere. So I bet you still get residual checks from it.
Every now and again, they've dwindled to like, that 11 cents, 12 cents, like that's where they're at now. And every now and then I get one for like $4.37 or something like that. But $4.37.
Oh.
But I still see them every now and again.
I actually want to go back to the beginning because Chidi is such a great role, and The Good Place is it's just such a fantastic show. I'm curious if you can kind of tell us about how you got the part, because I think I've heard that a lot of people who went out for this show didn't know what it was.
No, we didn't. I think myself, Jamila, Darcy, and Manny had no idea what the show was about. They gave us dummy sides, and I think the sides that I got were for a lawyer working for the Innocence Project. And I encounter this woman who is at this conference with me, and she's not supposed to be there. And that's essentially like the whole premise of the thing. They were really funny, charming sides. I was like, oh, this could be fun. But then, once I got the part, they were like, hey, those sides were great. You were great in those sides. That's not what the show is. We should have a meeting so we can tell you what you're actually doing.
What was I don't know if you could tell much from the sides, but was the character at all like Chidi? Was he indecisive or straight-laced?
No. He was pretty much pretty straight-laced, pretty normal. I mean, still straight-laced, and I think that's one similarity, but the indecision or indecisiveness rather was not in those sides much at all. It was just a good guy, you know.
So how much did they tell you up front, and what was your reaction when they finally did sit you down?
So my concern was I hope that what I did in this audition actually carries over, you know. Because everything is so wild in this show that I was like, well, I think I was in my head, it was a very grounded thing. And so I was like, I don't know if is there going to be room for that, or am I expected to be just like, am I supposed to lean into this aesthetic a little bit more? But thankfully the show, kind of rides that line between being kind of grounded and also just being completely wacky. So
I suspect most people who are watching this have seen the show, and if not, stop what you're doing and go watch all 4 seasons, so we can get a little spoilery. Did they give you any indication that, the first season they believe they're in heaven, but it turns out they're in the other place? Did they give you any indication early on that was happening?
Not early on, no. They kept it very, very, very secret. And we were shooting episode 10 was when they finally brought us all in and sat us all down after wrapping for the day, and they told us what was actually going on and how the first season was going to end. We as a matter of fact, I think Manny said that when they rounded us all up after that day of shooting, he thought we were all getting fired, or that I thought we were in trouble. I was like, oh God, they got these 2 big stars and a bunch of unknowns, and we're just not doing good, and they don't like us, and they're gonna just scrap the whole thing, and it's all our fault. And that's sort of like where all of our minds were going. But yeah, they finally let us know about 10 weeks into shooting, and I think they just wanted to know that they could trust us. And so they held that from us for a very, very long time.
I mean, the show kind of reset itself every season, and sort of had like a new premise. Sometimes they go back on Earth, sometimes they're fighting demons. I don't know how much you knew in advance or how much you even wanted to know, because it's sort of fun to discover it as you go.
Well, I mean, it's like I wanted to know certain things just because I wanted to be able to like map out some stuff. But it's actually a lot of fun to not know. And I feel like often we as the cast were on a very similar ride with the audience, because anything could happen in this show. Anything could happen in this world. And I think we got a kick out of being surprised, as the seasons unfolded. So, but they did start telling us, Mike Schur would actually, after the second season, once he knew we could keep a secret, he started letting us know what the beginning, middle, and end of the seasons were, and just like sort of filling us in on the entire arc, or the idea for the entire arc once they started shooting. I mean, some of those things would change as they were writing the scripts. So we'd have like some general idea once he figured he could trust us.
He's filling you in, but then your character has to forget all that, because he kept resetting and forgetting. And I would think it would actually be kind of hard to play someone starting from scratch over and over again when you, as the actor, know everything.
Yeah, and the hardest part actually is sort of getting rid of that natural chemistry that you have with people. Like there's a shorthand that you just sort of develop over time, and there's bits that you kind of have with, between characters, and that all has to go away. You have to just come at it like you don't know each other. And so it's weird to take a very simple thing like, circumstances and moment before, and either chuck it completely or only rely on one half of it, which is just the moment before. That's the only thing that you've got. You don't have a past with these other characters. You don't have a bunch of context that you're coming from together. And so that's it's strange, because I think that we would also do some takes of some of these scenes, and he would have to remind us, like, you don't know them anymore. Remember, like, it's like, this isn't you guys don't have that dynamic. You guys you're brand new to all of this. So remember that. And that was always a little tricky to navigate.
I want to talk about that chemistry because this ensemble is so wonderful together. What was it like working with, first of all, legends like Ted Danson and Kristen Bell, but then also kind of relative newcomers like Jamila, who I know this was her first acting role.
Yeah, it was nuts. I was so mad at her because I mean, it was like, this is your what, and being all good and stuff. And I've been at it. I'm like on the way out because I'm mad and I have an attitude problem. And this is your first job. It's like it made me crazy that she was so good. I was so pissed about that. Just pissed at her talent. Yeah, like, I think for all of us, we just couldn't believe that we got the opportunity to work with two legends. And I think over time, we just realized we were on a very similar journey. This is for all of us, this is the biggest job that we've had in our lives. So it's just like, we're all like, we're on this text chain where we're just sort of like just checking in with each other often because we don't know, we're trying to figure out how to navigate things.
Yeah.
But I think the upside of that is Ted and Kristen are the sweetest people ever, and they're more than willing to show you the ropes, tell you what you need to know, tell you how to approach things, especially when it comes to press and events and things like that we were just not used to. But they're also just good at showing you how to be on set. And so like I feel like with them being so kind and so open and so good and so nerdy about doing the work, it set a tone. It set a tone for the rest of us that we could, they weren't jaded. So we got to be as googly-eyed and optimistic and happy and jolly and weird and neurotic and nervous as we needed to be in order to play these parts. So I think that everyone just kind of they felt safe enough and comfortable enough to bring themselves to set. There was not like, you weren't having to arm yourself to go and deal with this world that was completely foreign to you. It was just going and working with a lot of really great people. And so I really attribute a lot of the chemistry to the tone they set, and to also just, the four babies, just, I feel like I don't know, it just sort of all happened naturally, just evolved.
So wait, are the babies Darcy, you, Manny, and Jamila?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the four babies. Darcy called us the four babies because I think we were, it was all our biggest job. And I remember after the first meeting that we had as a cast in Mike Schur's office, the four of us all exchanged numbers because, I think we were all like just terrified, but also excited, and also just needed to have someone going through the exact same thing, and so that's Darcy called us the four babies.
I want to know more about these text chains. Does Ted Danson use a lot of emojis?
No, not really. Not really. He sends very earnest, very sweet texts. He just sort of checks in. He's like, I miss you. How are you? He's just a, very straightforward, very kind.
Yeah.
Darcy's probably the most tech savvy of us. Well, I don't know. It's like probably between Darcy and Jamila. But I mean, like, Manny and I are both very, we're not big on social media. We try to reply. We try to reply to the text chains as much as we can. But I think that I just get nervous and I don't. And Manny is also just sort of a quiet guy. But I mean, but yeah, we like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of jokes. There's a whole lot of, just silliness on these text chains.
So if you're not super active on social media, were you familiar with the surprisingly buff Chidi meme that was going around? When you wandered shirtless through the sprinklers and everybody was so surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, like my when that episode aired, my friend texted me, and he was just like, dude, have you seen Twitter? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, man, Twitter wants Chidi to get naked. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just remember that episode was like really tough for me. It was like really frightening to be like taking off my shirt in front of people. I hate that, you know? And so I was like, oh God, I just hope I don't get roasted when this episode comes out. And so it was like a really, you know, pleasant surprise that I wasn't just getting made fun of.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I figured I heard about it the night it happened, and I was like, it was just like I just breathed a huge sigh of relief. I was like, whew, okay, I made it through. I'm fine. I can get on with my life.
The Good Place is so great for gifts, though. There's so many great reaction shots that you can use for just about any situation. I understand why it's become very popular on social media.
Yeah, yeah. And there's some real snarky lines. I mean, it's a really optimistic show with a lot of bite. There's something about that is just so meme ready, you know? It's just, you know, it's the irony of everything.
By the way, I think I may have heard, I don't know if this is true or not, that before you got The Good Place, you were actually thinking about taking a break from acting?
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking about walking away. You know, I was, you know, I mean, it's not like I was an old man that had been beaten by the industry for decades and decades on it. It wasn't anything like that. It was just I was really tired, and I was really I was being worn down by the constant pursuit of the next job that would just get me over the hump for a couple of months. And I wanted other things in my life. You know, I felt like it had consumed everything, and I wasn't really able to enjoy much of anything other than the time that I was working. And you know, just watching people around me do things like, you know, take trips, have weekends, you know, just do things like that. I was like, oh God, it's like I just don't have anything other than the job itself and pursuing the job, because otherwise I'm, you know, if I don't have a job, I'm sitting at home broke and worried about next month, or if not next week. And if I do have a job, I don't have time to really enjoy life much, because I was doing a lot of theaters, 8 shows a week, and you're, you know, rehearsing a ton. And so I was just like, I'm not sure if this is fun anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted other things. And it was a moment where I feel like a lot of actors have that moment where they think about quitting. And it's, you know, if it doesn't happen yearly or, you know, monthly or weekly, you know, it happens enough. And so I had that thought, and I was having that conversation with myself. And usually when I've had that conversation with myself, it felt like a loss. I felt like I was leaving something behind that I was going to be really sorry that I had, you know, left behind. And this time I actually felt relief. You know, I was like, well, this is fun. And I think if it is just fun, if I'm not tying my livelihood and my self-worth to it so much, I might find that I enjoy it again. And so it felt like I had turned a corner. I was just like, this doesn't feel like a loss to leave this behind. And it also meant that going into auditions, because, you know, the audition season, or the pilot season that I auditioned for The Good Place, was going to be my last pilot season. I just went in enjoying playing parts for a few minutes at a time, you know, and I was just there. I wasn't thirsty about getting that next job. I just, you know, I was just there, and I was just having fun. And I think something about that calm that I had in, you know, sort of in the center of me, and how much I just enjoyed being in the room helped. It helped me just feel free as a performer, because I was just doing it because I enjoyed it, not because I was looking for someone to give me something.
I mean, auditions are so hard. I don't know any other way to do it. But I know that it's a very imperfect science. And so I think maybe there is something to being willing to let go, but how do you get to that place when you do want it, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I will be, you know, thanks to The Good Place, I don't have to get a job as soon as one job ends, you know? And that's nice, because then it's, you know, I think, you know, the pressure really comes from the fact that it's, you need to pay rent. You know, it's like rent needs to get paid, bills need to be paid, insurance needs to be obtained in some way. And
Dog psychics need to be paid.
so what?
Dog psychics need to be paid.
Dog psychics need to be paid. So it's like that's all very tangible stuff, and it's really easy when you're going from job to job and you're doing the journeyman actor thing, which I did for a long time. It's easy for that to just be like constantly cooking in the back of your head. So it's, you know, for me, it was hard to just ignore that and be in the room. I wanted to make sure that I gave people what they wanted so they would give me the job that I wanted, rather than just, this is my take on this character. And these are the things that I find interesting. And I hope that our visions align. And if they don't, that's okay. But, you know, I think having a little bit of cushion allows for that. And for me, and so it's tough. It's tough to allow yourself to just exist in the room when there's very real, very tangible things outside of that room that you need to take care of, and it all depends on what you do in this room right now. And so it's hard. I think that's one of the reasons why I was considering leaving for a while, because it was just like, this isn't fun. I'm not having fun. I'm not doing the work that I, you know, had trained to do. I'm going there hoping someone will give me a job rather than looking to give a performance. And it was tough.
Coming off of, or because of The Good Place, do you get to be pickier about roles? Because last year you were in 2 movies, and they were just happened to be with like 2 of the best directors we have working today. You did Somar with Ari Aster, and then you worked with Todd Haynes on Dark Water. I mean, I don't know if you're picking and choosing your film roles, but to get to work with those 2 guys in the same year is kind of incredible.
Yeah, it's nuts. I do get to be a little more choosy. It's not something I'm used to. I definitely am like, it's a job? I'll have it. You know, like that's definitely how I feel most of the time. But I think that as I'm getting older, I don't want my life to be only about acting and only about the job. And so the jobs that I want to take now, I want to make sure that I have a real investment in it, or there's, you know, something that I've always wanted to learn, someone I've always wanted to work with. You know, I want to have a stake beyond just having a job and staying busy. And I'm feeling this passage of time in a very different way than I would have, I think, maybe 5 years ago. Just because it's, you know, it's like, I don't know, in the last few years, everything seems to just be moving faster, which I guess happens as you get older. But I don't want to use precious time with people that the time that I've set aside for people and for other important pursuits. I don't want to just give that time away for a job, just to have a job. I want to have other things as well.
Speaking of memes, Midsommar also lends itself to so many incredible memes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of those.
You know what? I actually haven't. I've seen people make fan art and posters and stuff, which are great, but I haven't seen the memes from Midsommar.
Have you seen the bear in a cage commercial? It's like a fake toy commercial that A24 made for Bear in a Cage.
Yeah. I
So
thought that was
creative.
great.
So creative.
But one of my favorite things was there was a poster that someone did for Midsommar that was inspired by the original poster for The Wizard of Oz, which I thought was so creepy and so good. It was all the things that I like rolled up into one. So yeah, but I've seen a lot of those. I haven't seen a lot of the memes. Yeah.
There's a lot of like Florence smiling in her May Queen outfits, you know, with like a satisfied smile. People use that a lot.
Terrifying.
Utterly terrifying in my nightmares. I know we're in this strange, you know, time where a lot of people aren't able to work, frankly, because of this lockdown. But I hear you're doing this really cool project for Audible. Have you already started on that?
Yeah. We're actually we're coming to the end of it now. But it's gonna be an audio play for Audible with Williamstown Theater Festival called Animals, and yeah, it's about race and old friends and new couples and booze and dinner. It's it's nuts. It's really intense, and yeah, but we're all recording it remotely. We're
That's so cool.
yeah, so I mean that's tough really because you want to be with a play especially you want to be in the room. That's the magic of it, and so it's difficult navigating that now, but but I think we're going to land on something good. That's my hope, at least.
Audible is really good at doing either plays or original content for audio. I've been so impressed with the stuff they've put out, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Sadly, The Good Place ended after 4 years, although it went out on such a perfect note. And I know Mike sure got to make exactly the show he wanted to make. Is it, now that you've had a little time, is it hard to say goodbye? Do you miss Chidi? Do you miss just the cast?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think if you had asked me this question back in the fall, it would have been a much more like front of mind, sort of palatable, like, oh, you know, like something that I was dealing with. But I think I've kind of gotten used to the idea of being apart. But it took a minute. But I'm definitely gonna miss going to work every day with that particular group of people, because I feel like we did something that I'm proud of, and everyone was really nice while we were doing it. And that's hard to pull off. I find that, you know, when I tell people about my experience on The Good Place, they're like, that's abnormal. And I'm like, well, that sucks. That sucks that that's not the norm, because there's really no reason to be anything other than kind when you get to do the thing that you want to do. And so I'm definitely going to miss it. I'm going to miss Chidi a lot. But I'm also just looking forward to playing stuff as far away from Chidi as I can, and just seeing what's in my wheelhouse and trying and failing and hopefully succeeding sometimes. But I just, now I feel like I have the time to really consider the things that I want to be a part of, and that's a luxury. That's a real privilege.
Yeah.
And so that's I'm trying to spin this as positively as I can, because really I just miss everybody. I want to go back to work.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so sad the show is gone, but I love that Mike got to do exactly what he wanted to do and tell the story he wanted to tell. So it was such a perfect finale. I feel like I can't complain. Part of me is shocked that this show even got to go 4 seasons. It's so crazy and original.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when they actually told us what the premise of the show was, the actual premise, I thought, okay, we'll get a season out of this, because I don't really know how long we can have foibles and where's it, like, what conflict is going to arise that's going to be really worth tuning into. And then, you know, and then they told us about the season 1 finale, which all of a sudden turned everything on its head. And I was like, oh, I think we're going to be at this for a minute. And so I mean, but I was surprised as well, just because it is so out of the box. It is so strange. I just didn't know that, you know, it's weird. Sometimes I think because I like stuff, that means that it's not going to last, you know? And so I was like, I like this. No one's going to like this, because it's just too weird, and I like it, which means that I don't get to have it for very long. And so I was really like delightfully surprised.
I mean, every season I'd be like, that season was amazing. There's no way they can top it. And then it would come back and blow my mind again. So I'm beyond impressed. I want to thank you so much for being here today. On behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, we want to thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences, process, and craft with your fellow performing artists. Congratulations again on a great season and the nomination. I'm so very thrilled.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. Appreciate it.